We begin with breaking news right now at noon. We are staying on top of reports of an active shooter at the St. Vincent North Hospital campus in Sherwood. THV11's Frederick Price has been at the scene in Sherwood since we first got word of this. Frederick, what are authorities telling you right now?
Yeah, Michaela, it is still a very active scene here in Sherwood. We're outside of the main entrance of the St. Vincent campus in Sherwood. I'm going to step out of the shot so you can really see a large police presence. The North Little Rock police are here, Little Rock police, of course, Sherwood authorities, and other authorities are trying to figure out exactly what has happened. I can tell you that the witnesses that we talked to earlier, we talked to a physician that was on the 4th floor, and ostensibly that is where this incident happened. We have not been able to confirm this with police, but that physician that was on the 4th floor said that she was caring for a patient at that time when she heard 2 gunshots, and her and the patient ducked down for safety, and then she heard 2 more gunshots, and that's when her and her team members and that patient had to leave the 4th floor to come to danger. We also talked to some other witnesses here on the scene that were on the 2nd floor, the 1st floor, trying to get some lab work done, some radiology work done. And they say that they heard that notification on the PA system, and that's when they went to safety. We talked to one person that was cleaning when she heard that notification on the PA system that the hospital was on lockdown.
I don't know, I ain't never just really been through nothing like this, so it's kind of scary. I was trying to get to safety, so.
Back out live now, just a devastating scene for anyone who was involved, those people in the building. Again, police have not been able to confirm any fatalities at this point, but they're still trying to put the pieces to this puzzle together. But Sherwood police did confirm that there was an active shooter, and they say that this happened shortly before 10 o'clock. And hospital employees tell me that they train for active shooter drills like this throughout the year, but it's nothing like actually experiencing. Of course, we're going to have more coming up tonight on THV11 News at 5 and 6 o'clock. For now, though, we're live tonight in Sherwood. Frederick Price, THV11 News.
We are staying on top of breaking news today at noon. Reports of a potential active shooter at the St. Vincent North Hospital campus in Sherwood. THV11's Frederick Price is live at the scene. Frederick, what have you learned?
Yeah, Michaela, good afternoon to you again. Yeah, we're outside of the main entrance of the CHI St. Vincent campus in Sherwood, and police confirmed that there is an active shooter. Apparently, this happened on the 4th floor, according to witnesses, and we actually have some people who were on the 1st floor, so they didn't necessarily hear what happened, but kind of tell me what you saw and what you heard, and I guess what you experienced.
I was taken in for x-rays. I was here for x-rays this morning. I was in the x-ray room, had been in there about probably 10 minutes, and somebody came by the room real quick and closed the door and said that we're in lockdown and nobody leave this room. And there was commotion in the hallway. About 30 seconds later came in and said, we've got to get everybody out of the building, follow us. And they took us out a different door down a hallway that I'd never seen before, and then finally got us to a rear easement where they told us to exit and get as far away from the building as we could.
And so when you were able to exit to safety and get to the outside of the building, kind of describe the scene. What did you see, Jeff?
Emergency vehicles coming from everywhere. I mean, the sirens were just constant for, I don't know, 30 minutes to an hour at least. It was just people coming in, and they were setting up their command post, which I believe they've moved down to Academy now, but they're well organized, and but there was, I don't know, it was just it's kind of a scary situation. I didn't wake up today expecting to do this, but it was we still do not know what the final outcome was, but it was definitely something different. And yes, it was scary. I was worried about where my wife was because she had been out in the lobby while I was in x-ray, but we met up outside and just been waiting since.
Well, Jeff, I appreciate you sharing those thoughts and those sentiments, and I'm so happy that you are okay this afternoon. And that his sentiments are kind of like everyone here who was inside of that building. They're a state of suspense, not knowing exactly what is going on. Police are trying to comb through and figure out what exactly is happening. But we can tell you again that there is an active shooter inside of the St. Vincent campus here in Sherwood. There are reports that someone perhaps could have been hurt, but we're trying to confirm that right now. And this is still a very active scene. We're going to try to get as much information as we can, and we'll relay that information to you tonight on THV11 News at 5 and 6, as well as on our website, THV11.com. For now, though, we're live this afternoon in Sherwood. Frederick Price, THV11 News.
Thank you, Frederick. And like you said, we'll have more for the news at 5. Thank you, Frederick.
right now at 5 deadly hospital shooting.
I was trying to get to safety.
A gunman opens fire inside CHI St. Vincent, forcing the hospital to go on lockdown.
Like, very scary. It was very real.
We have team coverage live from the scene. Plus, Hurricane Ian makes landfall. The powerful storm battering Florida's Gulf Coast.
We're safe. That's all that matters.
We're tracking the destruction and where it heads next. And cash crop.
We're really putting our money where our mouth is.
With recreational marijuana officially on the November ballot, we're learning how much money it could bring in for the natural state if voters say yes. Well, it's an alert that we hear far too often in other parts of the country. And today, that reality coming right to our own home. A person with a gun targeting someone in a hospital. Central Arkansas is absorbing that news tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Faith Woodard in studio.
And here in Sherwood, I'm Rolly Hoyt. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. The CHI St. Vincent North is a small local hospital. And so when word came out of a police response here this morning, it hit home for a lot of people who live here. Similar deadly shootings in other parts of the country often conjure up worst case scenarios. So let's give you the specifics about what happened in this particular incident earlier today. It's a hospital that thousands pass every day on Highway 67, 167. Just before 10 o'clock, it went into lockdown. Employees inside directing law enforcement to a victim on the 4th floor. That victim, 21-year-old Leighton Whitfield. The local, state, federal law enforcement all converged. People, patients, and employees gradually managing to get out of the building over the next 90 minutes. Just around noon, the lockdown was lifted, and word came out that a suspect had been found down in Little Rock, some 15 miles away. Let's continue our team coverage. Ashley Godwin was at the news conference today held by the different law enforcement folks, and she has more on the shooter, Raymond Lovett, his motives, and his arrest. Ashley?
Rolly, a tragedy, a horrific incident today, and starting off, the Sherwood Police Chief said that it was the worst case scenario. He explained officers got the call to the hospital around 9:45 this morning. They were able to respond quickly, but the shooter had already left. Then they found the victim dead on the 4th floor. That's 21-year-old Leighton Whitfield. He was not a patient of the hospital. He was visiting someone there. Like you said, around 11, Little Rock Police arrested the shooter Raymond Lovett at an Exxon gas station. Police tell us Lovett and Whitfield knew each other, and this was an isolated event.
Our prayers go out to our patients, their families, our heroic co-workers and their families who were caught up in today's shooting.
What started out this morning to be a complete worst case scenario and the thing that we fear most within 2 hours had turned into a suspect in custody, and we had the hospital back in the process of reopening.
Now, St. Vincent CEO says security and lead employees are trained in active shooter situations, and they are reviewing how they can be better and make sure this doesn't happen again. Now, in terms of charges, they haven't filed any yet, but they are hoping to formalize those before the end of the day. Back to you, Rolly.
Ashley, thank you very much. And you mentioned the arrest of Lovett at a gas station in Little Rock. I was on that scene and talked to the owner there, Tony Zimmerman. He was giving chilling details about Lovett walking into his store and essentially confessing to him what he had done and putting a gun there on a desk. We're going to talk more about those details as we go over the next 90 minutes here on THV11. But high emotions there, and certainly high emotions here in Sherwood this morning. morning. I bring in Frederick Price, who was one of the first reporters on the scene. What was it like in that hour of tension, hour and a half right here?
Yeah, really, I can tell you we arrived to the scene shortly after 10 o'clock. Obviously, the incident happened a little bit before 10 o'clock, but the first thing that caught my eye was the large police presence. I mean, there were multiple police agencies out in front of the entrance right behind us trying to respond and put the pieces to this puzzle together. And one thing that caught my eye were the people that were across the street. I mean, hospital employees, potential visitors, patients even, and I was able to talk to some of them, and they say this was just devastating for them. They were at a state of suspense. They didn't know exactly what was going on inside of that hospital, and they just couldn't believe what was happening. I talked to a physician that was on the 4th floor, and she says that she was just feet away from those gunshots, and then that's when she, had to evacuate the building. I also talked to a gentleman on the 1st floor. He was getting an x-ray, and he got the notification that they were on lockdown. So, I mean, it was just devastating for the people inside. And coming up tonight at 6, you're going to hear more of their story. But for me as a reporter, I've never covered anything like this, and my heart and thought goes out to those families that were affected. But it was a scene this morning for sure.
Definitely, and just a regular thing. Like you mentioned, the gentleman who was in there for an x-ray, and suddenly you find yourself being evacuated to a parking lot. What is notable is how well and quickly the hospital appears to have gone back to normal. We're going to be talking more about the process, and now that this turns into a legal and criminal investigation. But for now, we'll send things back to the studio to you in Little Rock. Faith.
All right, Rolly, thank you. That was Rolly Hoyt in Sherwood, and thank you so much for those updates. Our coverage continues on our online platforms 24/7, and right now on THV11.com you can find all of our coverage from today, including the entire press conference from police and hospital officials. And as always, make sure to download our THV11 app and set up news alerts to get the very latest. Right now at 6, an active shooter at an Arkansas hospital. Scary moments from those trapped inside.
We went in a patient room, we barricaded ourselves in there, we put the bed in front of the door and everything.
It was truly a testament to what law enforcement in Pulaski County is capable of.
Investigators revealing new details about what led up to the shooting. Our live team coverage brings you the latest. Hurricane Ian takes aim on Florida's coast.
Some places going to get 2 feet of rain. It's moving that slow.
I urge Floridians who have made the decision to shelter in place, to stay indoors, and stay off the roads.
A look at the destruction and the track now that this powerful storm makes landfall. We've seen chilling reports of shootings in other parts of the country, but today that report came to our own backyard. I'm Faith Woodard, and as you can see, we have Rolly Hoyt out live fielding team coverage as we bring you answers after a shooting grips the attention of Central Arkansas. We have team coverage tonight starting in Sherwood, where this all happened. A shooter entering CHI St. Vincent's North Campus today, killing someone at the hospital. Now let's send it out to Rolly Hoyt. Rolly, what do we know tonight about this scary situation, and what can you tell us?
Faith, yeah, good evening. We can confirm that one suspect is in custody after that scary situation led to a lockdown at this hospital behind me here in Sherwood. The suspect apparently shot a victim, 21-year-old Leighton Whitfield, forcing the lockdown, forcing an evacuation, and then eventually turning himself in to Little Rock Police. Let's go over some of the details as we learn them today. The lockdown began just before 10 o'clock at this hospital that thousands pass by every day on Highway 67 167. Employees within the building directing law enforcement to the 4th floor where that victim was allegedly shot. Law enforcement from federal, state, and local authorities all converged here, while people, patients, and employees managed to evacuate the building, although surgeries did continue in a couple of cases while the lockdown was in effect. We mentioned the suspected shooter, 24-year-old Raymond Lovett, would turn himself in at a gas station some 15 miles away from this scene. And with more details on his arrest and what might have led Lovett to that confrontation in this hospital, let's continue our team coverage with Ashley Godwin. She was at the police news conference earlier this afternoon. Ashley, what do you have for us?
Hey, Roley, like you said, a really scary situation, horrific. Sherwood Police Chief Jeff Hager even started off saying this was the worst case scenario. He explained officers got the call of the shooting around 9:45 this morning. They were able to respond quickly, but the shooter had already left. They found the victim dead on the 4th floor. That's 21-year-old Leighton Whitfield. He was not a patient at the hospital and was visiting someone there. Then around 11, Little Rock police arrested the shooter, Raymond Lovett, at an Exxon gas station. Police tell us Lovett and Whitfield did know each other, and this was an isolated event.
What started out this morning to be a complete worst case scenario and the thing that we fear most within 2 hours had turned into a suspect in custody, and we had the hospital back in the process of reopening.
The CEO of CHI St. Vincent said there were multiple surgeries happening during the lockdown, which doctors were able to continue as police investigated.
They didn't yield. They were still there to take care of their patients. They didn't know what was going on, but nonetheless were willing and ready to take care of their patients.
St. Vincent CEO said security and lead employees are trained in active shooter situations. Now they are reviewing how they can be better to make sure this doesn't happen again. Now, as far as charges go, last check, they haven't been filed yet, but police say they are expected to be done by the end of today. Back to you, Roley.
Ashley, thank you very much. And you mentioned the arrest taking place at an Exxon in Little Rock. It's Zimmerman's Exxon, also a tackle shop. I was literally in the neighborhood and got some video of the scene after the arrest was made, and I talked to the owner, Tony Zimmerman. He described Lovett as coming on foot into the store looking distraught and very upset, asked to use the phone, said he needed to call 911. When Zimmerman asked him why, he said he had just killed somebody, that he had unloaded his entire clip into somebody, and when Zimmerman asked him where, he said it was at a hospital up in Sherwood. So chilling details there, high emotions there in Little Rock, mirrored here in Sherwood. I'm joined by Frederick Price, who was one of the first reporters on the scene. And Frederick, a lot of tension here because this is one of those alerts that puts a chill into all of us anytime they come across our phone.
Yeah, certainly, Roley. When I initially got on the scene shortly after 10 o'clock when those shots were fired, before 10 o'clock this morning, it was quite frankly pandemonium. I mean, there was law enforcement agencies. We're talking Little Rock Fire Department, Little Rock Police, North Little Rock Police, Sherwood Police Department, of course, just trying to figure out exactly what went wrong. One thing that caught my attention, though, were the people that were across the street from the hospital. They got notification that the hospital was on lockdown, and they made their way across the street to safety. I talked to a physician that was on the 4th floor who was just feet away from those shots that were fired. Of course, it was devastating for her. It was frightening for her. And I was able to talk to some other people who were across the street who tell me this day is nothing like they ever would have imagined.
I ain't never just really been through nothing like this, so it's kind of scary. I was trying to get to safety.
Wednesday morning started as any other day would for hospital employees at St. Vincent North.
We did our first morning vitals, and we were just going through checking out everybody.
Normality quickly turned to fear shortly before 10 a.m. when authorities say Raymond Lovett began shooting at a visitor on the 4th floor.
Like, everybody started running.
A hospital employee says she was on the 3rd floor when this happened.
We went in a patient room, we barricaded ourselves in there, we put the bed in front of the door.
At that point, workers and patients like Jeff Russell were notified an active shooter was inside the building.
Somebody came by the room real quick and closed the door and said that we're in lockdown and nobody leave this room.
Russell was on the 1st floor getting an x-ray. Seconds after the lockdown, he says he was able to leave to get to safety.
Came in and said, we've got to get everybody out of the building, follow us, and they took us out a different door.
He describes the scene as frightening.
Yes, it was scary. I was worried about where my wife was because she had been out in the lobby while I was in x-ray.
His sentiments reflect everyone inside as people waited in a state of suspense, not knowing what happens next.
We had to have our hands up, we had to do it one by one. When I ran out, my mom, she was across the street. I was just looking for her. I was on the phone. I was very emotional. I was crying.
Hospital employees tell me they are trained for situations like this, but she says it's much different when the unthinkable actually happens.
But I've never been in an active shooting situation. This was like very scary. It was very real.
And when you hear things like that, Rolly, the first thing that comes to mind is what those people went through inside. They did not know what was going on, what was going to happen next. And my heart goes out to the families that are impacted by this. But man, it's been just a devastating day for the families and even the employees that were involved in such a tragic incident.
And also I'm struck too by, this is a small town hospital. I mean, even though we're just a couple miles away from the biggest city in the state, this is still a local place where a guy goes and gets an x-ray this morning, or somebody might be in the hospital for a couple of days recovering from something, and to have it happen right here, that's part of what makes this so striking and alarming. We're going to talk more about today's situation, as well as more details about what the legal investigation could unfold here in the next couple of weeks. For now, let's send things back down to Little Rock and Faith. Take it away.
An emotional day for everyone involved. Ashley, Frederick, and Rolly, thank you so much for keeping us updated. So to recap, here is what we know right now. A shooting call came in just before 10 a.m. at CHI St. Vincent in Sherwood. Officers found 21-year-old Leighton Whitfield of North Little Rock dead. Shortly after, the suspect Raymond Lovett was taken into custody in Little Rock. Now, police say this was an isolated event, saying Lovett knew Whitfield and was targeted specifically. However, the exact motive is unknown. As for the hospital, CHI says it will be reviewing safety protocols. To listen to the full police briefing and more updates, you can head over to our website, THV11.com.